Welcome back to Andersen. We're in the kitchen again today, and today we're making potatoes. We are actually making a cheesy stuffed potato. This is really easy, doesn't take a lot of effort, but does take a lot of time because you have to bake the potatoes twice. So let's get started. First of all, you need some baking potatoes. So you can use russets, you can use Yukons, whatever you like as a baking potato. And you need to scrub them up, okay? Scrub them up really well so the skins are nice and clean. And then you're going to want to take a fork and pierce them on all sides, well, both sides. So you just want to pierce them 2 or 3 times per side, because otherwise sometimes potatoes can go a little bit crazy in the oven, and that's not great. So while you're doing this, you want to preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, because these need to be baked. And we're going to shove these in the oven, and we are going to bake them for about an hour until your fork or a knife can pierce through your largest potato easily, because the potatoes do need to be fully baked for the next step. So put these on a baking sheet, throw them in the oven, 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. We'll come back when our potatoes are cooked through. All right, so our potatoes are cooked through. You do need to be able to insert a knife all the way through, and it needs to pass easily. You want to make sure these potatoes are cooked nice and thoroughly. When you're sure they are and they've cooled enough that you can handle them, you want to take your potatoes, and one at a time you just want to cut off kind of just that top of it, because you want to be able to scoop out the insides. Now, mine are still a little bit hot, but I'm going anyway. So you just cut off that top there, okay? You can reserve these and make potato skins or what have you. And then I like to use an ice cream scoop to kind of scoop out the insides. And I like to scoop them out fairly consistently, so not just like that. You want to get quite a bit more scooped out. And I'm actually going to get a smaller spoon, only because this is a smaller potato. I should have started with a larger potato, but since I didn't start with a larger potato, we will get ourselves a smaller spoon. And you just kind of go along the inside, taking most of the potato out. You don't want to go right to that skin, but you want to go pretty close. So you just kind of go along there and then just take the insides out. And you want to do that with all of your potatoes. So I'm using 7 potatoes only because these are actually pretty small potatoes. So usually this recipe makes about 4. But because I'm using pretty little potatoes, which is no big deal. You can use little potatoes as easily as you can use big potatoes. It's not a big deal. But if you're using little potatoes like this, you're going to want a few extra potatoes, just because you want about the same amount of filling. So once you scoop them out like that, you can then put the shell back on your cookie tray. We're working with just the filling for now. Don't get rid of the shells. We need those shells. So I will scoop out all of these off camera, and we will come back just as soon as everyone has been scooped out. All right, there is our inside of the potatoes. So now you need a potato masher. Give them kind of a mash to break up the chunks. And now we need to add some ingredients. We are going to add about half a cup of butter. Remember, these potatoes will be still pretty warm, so the butter should melt. So about half a cup of butter. Next, we're going to add some sour cream. Now, I'm adding about a 1/4 cup of sour cream. You can add more sour cream. If you really like sour cream, you could go up to half a cup. You can also eliminate it entirely and just add a little more butter in order to give your potatoes a little more fat. But you do need fats in this in order for this to bake up properly. But if you hate sour cream, that's actually okay. All right, it's fine to just decide you're not going to use sour cream. So we are using sour cream, but you don't have to. Next up, we need some cheese. We're using a cheddar cheese, and we're going to do about 3/4 of a cup of cheddar cheese. Remember, the potatoes are still warm. The cheese should start to melt a little bit. Okay. Now we need some garlic powder. You're going to add about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Garlic powder's delicious. Okay, get that in. We are going to add about a teaspoon of chives. You can add more chives than that if you really love chives. Again, you can also eliminate them entirely if you really don't like chives. Not everybody does. Okay. Next up, we are going to add about a teaspoon of salt. I am adding a Himalayan pink salt because that's what I have on hand, and that's what my son likes the best. It doesn't really matter. You can use a kosher, you can whatever salt you have. It really doesn't matter. Now we're going to add some pepper. You're going to want about half a teaspoon of pepper. You can go up to a teaspoon if you want. But remember, pepper can make things spicy. So have a care for the other people in your household. I would put some real spicy peppers in here, but I'm not going to because I'm not cruel to my children. Even though my favorite things are spicy. There we go. Now we're going to add in some bacon bits. That is entirely optional. You certainly do not have to. So you can add as much bacon or as little bacon. You can eliminate it entirely. It is entirely optional. So if you're not in the mood for bacon, or if you just don't like bacon, just leave it out. You do not have to have the bacon in here. Okay. Next up, I'm going to get our potato skins. Tequila, you are in my way. So I have a dog at my feet here, and she's liking me to step over her. So now we have our potatoes. Okay, we have our potato mixture. We have our shells. What we're going to do is we're just going to take our mixture and stuff it back into our shells. So we're just going to go one by one, stuff that right in to the shells, just like that. It's okay if they overflow a little bit. They probably will because you've added ingredients. But just go around, fill up all your shells, and then we will come back and finish them off. All right, our potatoes are now restuffed with all of their delicious insides, including the cheese and the bacon. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take just a little bit more cheese, not a ton. Just pop some cheese on top of those just because it'll be delicious. So pop some cheese on top, just a little bit, or total cheese on top is probably about a 1/4 cup among all your potatoes. Probably good enough. You don't need a ton because there's also quite a bit of cheese in the potato. So remember, your potatoes probably are overflowing, and that's a good thing. Now finally, we're just going to top the tops of our potatoes with a little bit of dried parsley. Not a ton, just a little bit of dried parsley. Okay, there we go. Now we have to pop these in the oven. We are going to leave these in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll come back and look at them as soon as they're baked. And there we have it. These are cheesy stuffed potatoes. These ones have bacon. You can do bacon or you can do onion. You can do anything you like. But cheesy stuffed potatoes are a fun way to have a baked potato and to jazz it up a little bit so it's not just the same old baked potato, butter, sour cream. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.